Today's July 16th, 2018, and you're listening to Human Factors Cast, episode 98. Planes, trains, and Facebook. Today, I don't know, we'll talk about all these transportation innovations and more on today's Human Factors Cast.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for all things human factors, psychology, and design.
Welcome back to another episode of Human Factors Cast. I'm your host, Nick Roome, joined today by my good friend and yours, Mr. Blake Arnsdorff.
Nick, it's so good to be here. Another day, another Monday in the studio. A few hiccups.
A few hiccups. We're okay. Everything's situation normal. We're all fine here. Thanks. How are you?
I am doing well, my man. So
good.
You and I have been talking about one thing for half the day, and that is new laptops.
Yes. New laptops.
Yes. So Nick reminded me about my laptop and how much I love it, but there's some problems that I've got with it.
What's the problem?
Man, I cannot stand when things don't give you feedback when they correctly should. So for anybody that uses, caps lock or nums lock or anything that you need feedback from your laptop for, my laptop does not do that.
So I noticed. So you're talking about when you hit caps lock or nums lock, there's no visual indicator on your physical keyboard or laptop just in general to indicate the status.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like I've seen on some of my older laptops or even older computers where it'll tell you on the screen at least where something is caps locked or if you hit nums lock or whatever.
Right, it'll like show up at the bottom or something like that.
Yeah, at least give you like some textual indication that something's happening. But nope, not today. Not at all. Yeah, so anyway, that's pretty much all I've got for fun little banter. But it sounds like you've got something cooking in the works with regards to a laptop, sir.
I got multiple things. So I'm really excited because I just bought my first gaming laptop. It has a lot of power behind it. There's reasons other than gaming that I purchased this thing, and which we'll get into in just a moment here. It's a little tease. But so I finally bought this thing, and I'm very excited about it because I'm working off of this 2010, 2011, 2013 maybe. I don't know. It's old. It's an old laptop, and it's not very powerful. And I have been kind of struggling for a powerful PC for a very long time. I mean, a lot of the work that you and I do is audio-based, and or at least for the show, right? We do a lot of audio-based, and more later. That's another tease. That's another tease. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But
your laptop is taking us a long way. There's like 2 years of it holding up as the sole recording device to help us out every week.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. But I invested in a new laptop, and it'll be great to jump back into the being able to do stuff on a computer. So I don't know. I'm excited about that. But I want to talk about one other thing. So last week was a little weird for me because I was at an off-site event from the office. I was at an off-site event all week.
Was it off-site?
It was off-site.
Interesting.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure. So at this off-site event for the entirety of last week, minus Monday, and all I had was a work laptop to kind of work, I guess. It was weird. It was
Why was it weird?
I don't know. I just felt very disconnected from everything, from the camaraderie in the office to even just like my normal daily routine of being. I was in a area where I couldn't necessarily check my phone at free will, so I wasn't as plugged into what was going on with the news. I wasn't sort of kept well aware of all my conversations I was having with my loved ones. So it was just a weird feeling disconnected from everything, and I'm glad to be back into the real world, as they say.
Yeah, because I'm sure it was also stressful too. Like one, not being able to really access the stuff that you're used to being out of the office. That's kind of always a pain,
right?
And then like I don't know about you, but when I'm on offsite meetings or like stuff that keeps me out of the office for a while, it's fine. But at a point, it gets overwhelming just because it's people that I don't necessarily interface with every day. There's a little bit of added pressure to kind of be really on top of your game while you're outside representing your own company. So yeah, a week's worth of that has got to be pretty tough.
Yeah, and it wasn't just it was like the tools too, right? Because I was using like a loaner laptop, and so even something as simple as like a screen capture tool that's something that you take for granted when you just use it every day, and so I didn't have that, and so the productivity of my work was severely limited because of that. There's a whole chunk of my project that I put off until today, so that way I could work on it at my desk because I knew I had the right tools to do it. But yeah, man, I'm happy to be connected back into the grid and and all that stuff. So
just back in the office, driving everybody nuts.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about some stuff?
Let's talk about some stuff.
Okay.
Some things.
All right. So let's get into some programming notes, guys. So really quick, Blake is going to be out next week, so I'm going to have to find a replacement.
Yes, he'll be taking auditions starting tomorrow.
The show's obviously not going to be as good without Blake here, but we'll find someone. We'll find someone that will be, that'll be able to hold their own. Hopefully, I don't know. And then after that, we are going to be taking off the week of the 30th this month. So if you're doing the math, that is next episode is 99, and then we're taking a week off. And then Blake will be back here for episode 100. Now, we got some exciting stuff to announce. We've kind of been teasing this over the last couple of weeks. And, we even teased a couple weeks back that we hired somebody to help us out with something that we didn't want to reveal. But now we're going to go ahead and reveal that we hired a video editor. And we're going to be moving the podcast to a video form. Now, don't worry if you're getting this in your feed. We are still going to do the audio podcast, and it will predominantly be an audio podcast. But, Blake and I sat down and we said, well, a lot of the stuff that we talk about on the show is very visual based. Like there's a lot of these contraptions and interface devices that we talk about that we have to describe on the show, and we still will. But it helps to have that visual cue. And we know a lot of you are tuned into YouTube for a lot of your content. And so we just want to plug into that medium as well. And if that's the way you choose to enjoy the show, then that's the way you choose to enjoy the show. There's no, it's just another way for you guys to consume the content that we produce. So like I said, don't worry. There's not going to be any changes to the audio format. We just want to let you know that is going to be an option starting episode 100. So that's a big surprise.
Super excited. And
if you're a Patreon subscriber, you actually got to see a sneak peek of our intro. It's a little fun thing. I don't know. I got pretty stoked about it. It's pretty cool
It's pretty great. I mean, our video editor, can we name our video editor?
Let's hold off. I'm not sure if he wants to be named yet.
So our anonymous video editor did put together a pretty sweet intro based off of some of the feedback we had provided him about things that we liked and didn't like. So it's an awesome little piece, and it's kind of a fun little journey, right? We've been doing the podcast just audio only for a while, and then we did the Skype deal where you and I were kind of separated. Now we're back in the same space, so why not try a little bit more?
And that's also why we got into a studio, because this type of video format wouldn't work otherwise. So as you know, we've been recording in a studio for the last couple weeks, and we've actually been doing dry runs of the video, and now you guys can see our mugs while we
podcast at you.
While we podcast at you. So it'll be fun. It'll be an interesting foray into a new medium, and we'd be happy if any of you would join us. We have also, like I said, we also have a couple of surprises in line for episode 100, maybe some giveaways. We'll see. I don't know. They might be some good ones. So I'm really excited about those, but I can't talk about it yet.
For those of you who can't see his face, he's got a grin like a Cheshire cat. So stay tuned for episode, 99 and 100?
Yeah. I mean, you'll be able to see my smiley mug in episode 100 for sure.
There you go.
But yeah, we do have some exciting stuff. Please stay tuned. Some exciting stuff in the pipeline. Very excited, and it's been an incredible journey getting to episode 100. Not a whole lot of podcasts do that. Anyway, all right, we will talk more about that on episode 100, but for now, I just want to remind everybody that we got a couple events coming up. We got HFE, that's next week. Wow, I need to check with our field correspondent on that to see if...
Yeah, that would probably be good to go ahead and check in. Maybe he'll want to do the co-host
of the podcast.
Potentially,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, potentially. All right, and then we have HFES coming up, and just to remind everybody, there is a preliminary program out there, so you can check out the plenary speakers, and do check out those things, because it does give you sort of this alternative perspective on human factors that maybe you're not plugged into as much. It's a good kind of way to experience the other side of the fence, if you will. And then, there's also this silent auction. So if you have any sort of submissions for arts, crafts, writings, paintings, whatever it is, you can submit it, and there's going to be the silent auction that the proceeds will basically be used in scholarships for individuals who's never attended HFES. So it's going for a good cause. Check that out. If you want more details, hit us up. We'd be happy to point you in the right direction.
Nick, do we have a timeline for that?
I'm not sure.
Because that was just something I was thinking about. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm really into photography. I was thinking of submitting a photo for this, and I'd love to do it in Philly, like at night, and then submit it while I'm there. But I don't know when this is actually due.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We got heads up from HFES officials on this one, so I'm not sure. Maybe we
can always find out and like let anybody know in Slack or tweet it out on our social media, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Here, I'm pulling it up here on the silent auction on the HFES website. But and I'll look that up here in a second. And also, we have HFES Australia 2018. That's in Perth, and that's in November 26 through 28. Let me see here if I can. So here's the silent auction, September 1st. So we got some time.
Nice. All right. So all the way to September 1st, you can submit your entries for the silent auction.
Yes. So it sounds like you still got some time. It looks like you want to contact Valerie Rice. So
very good. All right.
Yep. Her email is on the website for this. I will post that in the show notes so everyone has access to it. As well as posted in our Slack channel. So be sure to check out those places, those locations for this link. There we go. It's in there. All right. So that's really all the programmatic stuff. You know what time it is, Blake?
Well, I think we got one more event
we
to
do.
pitch.
Do we?
Yes. So HFES Australia
I pitched
2018. Did you now?
I did pitch that.
I didn't hear it. But
That's
anyway,
okay.
That's
okay.
fine.
Even when we're in the same office, Blake, you don't know. You don't hear
He's
what I'm
not
saying.
Listening, no.
You just talk,
Yep.
and you don't understand what I'm saying. You just want to hear the sound of your own voice. Okay.
Yes, I love it.
All right, well, it's that time again for us to get all about human factors news. This is the part of the show where we break down all the stories coming out of the field of human factors. This could be anything from medical, transportation, psychology, whatever it is. It's fair game as long as it relates to the field of human factors. Blake, what do we got up first this week?
All right, so you may be able to take suborbital space tours from Italy within a couple of years after Virgin Galactic inked an agreement with two of the country's largest aerospace companies. Included in the deal are outlined plans for a spaceport to be constructed in the south of Italy. And besides providing a launch facility to take wealthy folks on a once-in-a-lifetime trip to the edge of space, spaceport will also be used by customers such as the Italian Space Agency as a science platform for high-frequency space research. So, Nick, this is pretty incredible. This might be one of the first real spaceports in Europe that's going to be having people traveling for fun.
I'm excited. Sign me up.
You and me both, if only I could afford the price tag or whatever it is going to be.
Oh, I saw millions was the... Oh, shoot. I did see an estimate of how much this would actually cost.
So maybe at the very end of my life, I can just toss that in there. A little $1 million space ride.
Your life-saving. I mean, if you die in the space ride, then it's all worth it,
yeah,
right?
It is all worth it. Just shoot me out into space.
Because then it's the end of your life. You're good.
Yeah.
But what does this mean for tourism? Because that's the real question that I want to get at, right? Because as this technology becomes more and more accessible and more efficient, right, the price will come down. I don't know if it'll ever get to airplane costs, right? That seems a little unlikely to me because of the sheer amount of resources required to break Earth's atmosphere, but to get into orbit. But I feel like this could do a lot for tourism, and I feel that also this kind of paves the way for the early stages of space exploration for the everyday person.
Yeah, and it's an interesting take here because I think what I read in the article anyway is this is more of let's breach the Earth's surface so we can have a look down from space.
Right. Not
so much like I'm going to the moon or I'm going to Mars.
Right.
That takes years and years to even do. So it's kind of cool, and I agree with you. I think over time we're going to see it come down to be, I don't know what reasonable is going to mean at that point, but in a way that more people could definitely afford to do it for sure.
I mean, the one thing I'm curious about, and maybe you can answer this for me, is what is there to look at? So you get up there, it's just a flat, a flat thing that you're looking at.
Just a flat Earth? Is that what it is? You see the flat Earth, you see the corner of it where the water's coming down.
I'm feeling feisty tonight. I don't know. This is a bad joke.
Yeah, I see that. So we are definitely believers in flat Earth over here. But totally. No, I mean, that's kind of a good question, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's giving you a telescopic view of what you can never really see except for through the internet now.
Right.
And you're going through all the throes of being in like that low gravity kind of format, and also experiencing what it's like to fly in a spaceship, which at the same time is kind of scary for me because we've had so many safety problems over the decades that we've been doing space exploration.
Sure.
And even like that's why you've got Virgin, who's a little bit behind, you might say, because in 2014 they had that big issue where they actually lost a pilot due to a failed testing.
Oh, that's right.
So
Yes.
it's nice to see that they are like taking their time in terms of trying to put safety first for everybody they're putting into these aircraft, whether it's pilots or it's their actual potential passengers. But I think the bigger part of the article that I like the most for now, because I like the idea of eventually being able to travel into space if you can potentially afford it later on. But the fact that they're already like lining up partners to bring in to make sure that this is not just a wealthy space trip, but it's being used for science as well.
Right. Yeah, that's the exciting part to me too. Is this opens up a lot of avenues for space tourism, but the science behind it is really exciting because more data coming in, we understand more about what it takes and to get up there, but also we get more data collection about the Earth.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, and I think something else that kind of is put down the tail end of this article is actually what might help drive down the price is the competition here, because there's also
Right.
Blue Origin coming from the CEO of Amazon, so Jeff Bezos. This is kind of his competitor for Virgin Galactic, and they're quickly kind of testing their reusable rockets, and they're actually almost caught up to where Virgin Galactic is right now.
Right, and SpaceX is working on something.
Yeah, so hopefully, but with that nice kind of healthy competition that we'll have with this kind of, getting people into space for fun type of thing, we will see that price kind of drop down, and a lot of kinks will be worked out over time, right?
Right. Yeah, speaking of SpaceX, do you think Elon Musk will make the first electric rocket?
Oh, I'm sure. Here you launch the car into space. Why
Yeah, he
not
already
make the
did.
electric rocket?
He already did. All right. Let's get into our next story. This one's fun.
All right, yeah, this is pretty insane. So a plane that lands on a runway, shrugs off its wings, and turns into a train, and then rolls onto rails to drop you off at the local station. Well, that's what a French entrepreneur who's made millions by connecting engineers with industrial groups is pitching to Boeing Co. and others. This is called Lincoln Fly, which is ACA Technologies' new flagship aircraft design with wings that come off to hasten turnover at airports and make boarding easier and closer to the passengers' homes. The ACA futuristic concept, passengers would board a train-like tube at a neighborhood station and have their retinas scanned for security taking off during the ride to the airport. Wings would then be attached to the pod for takeoff. Nick, I don't know if you're familiar with James Bond films, but this definitely seems like a Q invention to me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just like get on a train, stick on wings, and you're off to go.
Yeah. If there's an accompanying video that's actually pretty fun to watch because you see this tube, it actually just hooks right up into this plane chassis, and the whole idea of having seamless transportation that could be ground based, right? Because that's one of we talked about last mile transportation. I don't know if it was on our Infinite episode or last week's episode.
No, it was last week. 'Cause I remember we were going through like the different options and that kind of stuff.
Right. So something like that, where you're looking at the last mile transportation, this kind of solves that issue. If you can board at like a bus stop and just get on at a bus stop. I know we're talking about trains, so it might be something a little bit more complex than just a bus stop. But I'm thinking pie in the sky here. You board a bus stop and then you get into this little tube and it takes you to the airport. Docks you right up into the airplane, and then you take off, and then there you go. You're on your way. And then once you're there, it undocks you and then takes you exactly where you need to go.
Yeah, I mean the time and efficiency is incredible behind the idea, and I don't know. I mean it does serve the exact purpose that you're talking about here, right? Like we're almost eliminating the need for the disruptor market of these last mile kind of efforts that have been going on with like the scooters or bikes that are kind of all around cities nowadays. But the one thing that I get concerned about, I guess, is I don't know about you, Nick, but I am not the biggest fan of flying already. And to think that the wings are modular and worrying about making sure that they're placed correctly, that everything locks in and you're ready to hop in and go.
I don't know.
Makes me nervous.
You're not a fan of the, like, you could drop a payload of passengers if the pilot's just having a
anytime.
bad day.
Oh god, yeah. So that does make me kind of nervous, right?
Sure, I get that. But at the same time, the wings of an aircraft are just bolted on.
Yeah, I mean, there's the. It's one of those things where the fear of it doesn't really make sense when you think about the rationale behind it, right? Because
look, it's
sliding and locking versus bolts is not a whole lot of different.
It's a docking mechanism, right? So I mean, there's some fear there, right?
Yeah.
What if the docking mechanism fails? Then you're just falling out of the sky. But what you could do is you just saw the idea, huh? You saw an idea form on my face. You could put a parachute on the thing.
Yeah, or give everybody a parachute on their seat.
No, just parachute the whole tube.
That's true. Yeah, you could just have it float all the way down. That might even be a fun end of the ride.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and then
Since
it's a tube, it would float, presumably, or
Yeah,
land on
I
a
mean, it
house
looked
or something.
aerodynamic in the 3D kind of rendering they have of it.
Yeah. See, would be one of the fun things we'd show on video. I'm
That
glad
is
we can
very
talk
true.
about that.
The one thing that I thought was a good idea, and it kind of plays in a little bit. It plays into the facial recognition story we talked about last week. Is that now we're cutting down the need for any kind of like going through airport security and all that, because it's being done presumably by the bus/train, and then I would assume that you're pretty much check bag / putting your bag on the like underside of the aircraft when you start. So then you've kind of changed the entire process and made it really simple.
I mean, it's really just streamlining. Like we talked about, even that story from the biometric scanning in the airports, right? They're trying to streamline the experience, and I feel like if you combine that with something like this, you're streamlining it to the nth degree, because you no longer have to go through that process at multiple pain points. You now just go through it once before you get on the thing, and it takes you exactly where you need to go.
Yeah. The one thing that I guess I'm not sure of is what happens in the case of like you don't live near a train station and you live near an airport. Could you walk in and just go get on one of these tubes that shows up?
Right. Yeah, that's
so. There's some kind of weird nuances to think about, but it's an awesome idea and a crazy technology to think about, and I'd love to see Boeing put one of these together. Yeah,
and I guess you bring up another point too about the living near an airport. What if you live sort of near a train station and everyone gets on this tube? Do you then does the security checkpoint happen at the train station, and then once you get to the airport, you're put into the terminals, and then you can go to your airplane? Like it doesn't make sense, because people are going to go to different destinations unless you specifically go to a train station and say, I want to go from Los Angeles train station to New York somewhere.
Yeah, you're bringing up a really good point, right? Because you're gonna have to.
Not everybody's going to want to make that trip.
Well, how many train tubes would you have to have? Basically, one for every potential flight that you would have booked on any given day. Right,
and maybe it's for like these least these lesser accessible areas that we'll put y'all in this train tube and take you to this major metropolitan area. And there's I don't know. Yeah. Now I'm wondering.
Is it? Well, it's an instance that I think we run into as human factors practitioners, or we have the eye for, right? It's the technology seems super awesome and a lot of fun. Cool. Probably like one of the most intense engineering designs I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
But then the integration of it into the current system is going to take a lot of effort and a lot of thinking, and I think a lot of restructuring of how things are running in airports now.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see, and if any of you have any thoughts on this, you can jump on our Slack and let us know how wrong we are, or just bring up other ways in which we're not thinking about it. I don't know. All right. It's all fun here on the show. All right. Before we move on, I just want to thank all of our friends over at Engadget, TechCrunch, Digital Trends, and Bloomberg for all of our stories this week. If you guys want to follow along, you can follow us all over social media, or like I said, you can join our Slack for links to the original articles. We post those as we find them. So, Blake, we got some Facebook stories.
Yeah, we got some Facebook stories. That's right. All right, so let's hop into the first one. So in April, Facebook announced that it would be working with a group of academics to establish an independent research commission to look into issues of social and political significance using the company's own extensive data collection. That commission just came out of stealth. It's called the Social Science One, and its first project will have researchers analyzing about a petabyte's worth of data, of sharing data and metadata itself. The way the commission works is basically that a group of academics is created and given full access to the processes and data sets that Facebook could potentially provide. They identify and help design interesting sets based on their experience as researchers themselves, and then document them publicly. So what this might look like, for instance, is a set of data that's imaginary in this case, maybe described as about 10 million status updates during the week of the Brexit vote, and such associating metadata, and then developing a research question from there. All right, Nick. We had a little bit of banter before the show about this.
Yeah.
How does this, like, at a first glance, make you feel?
Okay, I'm of two minds on this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, first off, publicly available data is always good in my mind. Second off, I feel like you're going to make a really strong point about something to do with this. Why don't you go? I can see you bursting at the seams. Why don't you go ahead and say it?
No, it's kind of funny because I feel the same way. I think the publicly available data set and trying to understand what's going on from a social and political perspective, especially here in the United States, seems like a really important point that Facebook has made.
Right.
At the same time, it's Facebook who's putting this together, and I'm a little concerned about the continued collection and what they're doing. And how extensive is the data that they're collecting? What does that mean when we start handing it out to other, even scientists or researchers?
Right.
And what's the implication for the people who the data is collected from?
Right. Well, I'm under the assumption that this is anonymized data, and I think it actually calls it out in this article, right?
It does. It does mention that they make every effort to make sure that it is anonymized.
Right. So in that regard, I don't think there's any real danger of isolating an individual, but you still do have the danger of isolating certain user groups, and potentially gleaming some things, right? Like they said, analyzing status updates during the Brexit vote. Well, who's going to be tweeting about Brexit? Probably people,
the
affected
majority
by
will be, those
Brexit.
affected by it, right?
So you could almost infer demographics based on who's doing status about what, and if that data is tied to other things in that data set, then you might be able to pull out some tertiary characteristics about those individuals, right? So I can see this not only, I mean, they go and say that they're going to give this to the scientific community, right? Is this like publicly available? I didn't see.
They say it's only for the specific commission is what it sounds like to me.
So, because I was thinking if advertisers got a hand on this, then...
All right, so that's another tier of what I'm really worried about here.
Right.
Is where is this data going? And I know it says that this is an independent commission or independent research commission they've put together or helped put together. But what's the data feeding into? I mean, are we really just getting information about social psychology questions or what's going on in the political climate? How's it going to be used? And this kind of ties into the next story that's again related to Facebook, but it's I see a lot of this, especially with what they talk about collecting in metadata being in some ways filtered down or used for advertising. Yep.
I'm worried about that as well. Let's get into some of this metadata, though. So it looks like there's country, user age, device, and so on, is what the article says. But there's dozens of other items on there, such as ideological affiliation bucket, friends versus non-friends who have viewed a post, feed position, number of total shares, clicks, likes, hearts, flags. So there's a lot of data to sort through with this stuff, but there's a lot of stuff there that if the right researcher comes along, they can pour through this, right? And we're at no sort of what's the word I'm looking for? We're at no scarcity of publicly available data sets. There's a lot of them out there. And it's always been kind of like a pipe dream of mine to train an AI to link up data sets with certain tags and try to look for trends. I don't know if that's possible. I'm not an AI guy, but that does seem like something that would be tremendously valuable if you could hook up, something like the day, right, to posts. And what if you got some of the publicly available data sets from NOAA? So you could identify. This is a fairly innocuous example, just by the way.
Yeah. For listeners and for Blake himself, what's NOAA?
NOAA is the National Organization of Weather. It's weather. I'm going to look it up because I don't want to look like an idiot. I know I'm going to get 10 emails about that, but It's oh man, I should know this. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So there's publicly available data sets from NOAA, and now with this Facebook thing, if you link up day to status, and like I said, this is fairly innocuous, you can see that on a hot day, people tweet or people make statuses. This is Facebook, not Twitter. People make statuses about it being hot, and
Sure.
Potentially, that there's more angry faces because it agitates people when it's hot. I don't know. That's
true.
That's one example of hooking up these two data sets. But yeah, this pipe dream is to hook up many data sets and start to get that data to emerge. I don't know.
It's kind of funny because maybe it's just having a little bit of experience in marketing and whatnot, but when I even hear that kind of simple example, right, my first kind of idea when it comes to Facebook is, okay, it's going to use targeted ads that are going to be selling you things that are related to either summer or it being hot.
Sure.
So in a lot of the stuff that they even mentioned in metadata, that's what it felt like to me is, okay, we're getting hits on what this kind of content is doing per like user population, ideological affiliation, and it's kind of figuring out how you can target specific groups of people. I don't know though. I'm excited to see where this goes, and I want to keep an eye out for anything that's being put out by the Social Science One group, because I'm assuming they're going to kind of get started ASAP and start, churning through data and maybe give us some things like this. And I don't know. I mean, Facebook's come out or has put a lot of really brilliant technology together to help, and it's not necessarily all related to just under the name of Facebook, because they've got their own like kind of skunkworks things and Oculus going on. So who knows? I mean, maybe this will start feeding different technology like AR and VR and see where we can go from here.
That's an excellent segue. But before we go there, I just want to say one other thing. If you're a student right now looking for a project, go look at some of these free data sets. There's potentially some work to be done there. You can pull out.
Sure.
All the work's already done. You just got to find out how that data was collected and report on that. But then you can report the findings yourself as long as it's not been reported by anyone else.
Yeah, and you can even do like Nick was talking about. For anybody on video, that's what you would have seen. You get hit in the face with a mic. But even what Nick was talking about, you can start to see how you could even put all this stuff together across data sets, and I think that's a fun project.
Oh, so good. All right, you mentioned AR and VR. Let's get into this next one.
Yep, all right. So this year at F8, the developer conference put on by Facebook, they announced that it's working with businesses to use AR to show off products in Messenger. So now a similar experience will start appearing in the news feed with a select group of advertisers testing out some of these AR ads. These ads look like normal in-feed ads at first, but they include a tap-to-try option, which opens the AR capabilities. And of course, if you like the way that it looks in AR, you can go ahead and buy the product. In addition, they've announced that a new video creation kit will be released, which will allow the advertisers to incorporate existing images into templates for mobile video ads. In other words, they're making it super easy to create ads and target you.
The Minority Report is here.
It is. But leave it to Facebook to like bring kind of AR to the next dimension that you'll see in your everyday life for people that use Facebook.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. This technology is interesting because okay, so over the weekend, my partner used the Amazon one that we talked about 6 months ago, maybe a year ago.
Fashion one?
No. The one where you can see the got hit in the face with the mic again. Wow. The one where you can see the products in your home. And they've been really pushing this for Prime Day this year.
Oh, yeah.
Where you can actually see the products in your home. So she was looking at a rug and, she like mapped it up.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
How did it come out?
I mean, I didn't see it. She used it. So
oh, yeah. You didn't even see her using it?
No, well, I saw her using it, but I didn't see what the thing was.
Sure.
I meant to look. But, of course, other things got in the way. But, yeah, so I mean, this technology is being widely available. This is, to me, almost taking it to another level where you are taking products and showing what you would look like with these products, and that takes it to a next level for a variety of reasons. Because there's the level of being able to overlay it in your home, but now you're overlaying it on your face, and you can actually see what you look like. And there's the potential for some of this augmented technology to augment the way you look better. if that makes sense.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But because like, okay, if you augment an environment, it's hard to change certain aspects of that environment to make it look better in your house. But there are certain characteristics of the human face, of the human body that are, well researched, and more appealing to certain individuals, right? So if you're within a target demographic and they know that target demographic, they can set the algorithm to be more attractive when you're wearing their product.
Interesting.
I don't know. This is just my brain going to the like immediately worst thing that you can possibly do with this technology, and it's like a Black Mirror episode gone right, wrong. I don't know. It's like a Black Mirror, somewhere in between. It's like a Black Mirror episode, right, where this technology, but then also sort of the more malicious intent behind it is kind of what I'm worried about here. I'll be curious to try it.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really cool point, though, that it's not necessarily cool, but I was thinking that it was similar to what Amazon might be doing, right? Like if there's some, in your case, you were talking about a rug, same kind of deal, okay? Like I click from this newsfeed ad, if I'm on my phone, I'm assuming you would have to be?
Yeah, with a forward-facing camera or something, yeah.
Okay, so then it would just like project it in your house, and you can be like, yeah, okay, I'll buy it from here, or from Instagram, because they've talked about doing the same thing on Instagram. Which made a lot of sense to me, but when you start talking about the face and like the camera looking at you and projecting, maybe it's cosmetics or
sunglasses,
glasses or whatever it might be, some new beard oil, it made me wonder down the same nefarious route that you were kind of going down, but except for would they be able to augment aspects of your face to put you in that demographic of making your face look better than it really does, and then market products to you?
Here's the thing, man. So when you post pictures on social media, you're posting your best self. So they have that data available.
Sure.
They have it available. So why not make that picture look like the you when you were 20 pounds thinner? Why not make that, hey, you look really good in that. It's the same thing about tilting the mirrors down so you look thinner, in department stores. It's the same effect that I'm worried about here. And what sort of legislation, if any, is there going to be to protect the consumer from this type of mind-altering algorithm?
Well, now you've made it a little bit worse for me, right? Because what if the ad's coming up and it says tap whatever the function is, tap to try it on? Well, what if the way it shows up is it's already got it on you in that slimmer version or the best version of yourself that you've put on social media,
right?
And so now it can even in a flat sense get you and kind of pull you in.
Oh, you're saying on the pictures that you've already posted and just have it
just kind of superimpose on top of you because it's already got the data for that. I can't imagine that's that much of an abstraction to AR.
No.
That's so, wow.
That would be a great
Facebook,
opt-in,
if you're listening.
Opt-in, opt-out requirement there.
Right, yeah. Or else you're going to get super targeted ads.
Yeah, if you're listening, you can send royalties to...
Human Factors Cast.
HumanFactorsCast.com. Exactly. Yes. We won't give out our physical address. That would be dumb. This is... Woo. But they do bring up a good point here. You bring up the static augmented stuff. They do make out a point here that there's a weight loss company, Noom, which has been testing out these types of tools that figured out that videos actually performed 77% better than static images.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Sure.
It does. Because if you can see it in motion... then you can,
whole different ballgame. You know how it works. You can get some of the ideas about what's going on.
Yeah, not to go too far off the rails, but man, the technology's already there. There are Snapchat filters that make you look more attractive to whatever that means, right? I don't know what exactly the filter does, but I know it
makes me look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the technology's there, and it alters certain aspects of your face that are supposed to be more appealing. So
yeah, it's probably bringing you to that golden ratio place, right?
Yep.
Ugh, that scares me enough. That's just a Snapchat filter.
That's a Snapchat filter, and then you throw Ray-Bans on it, and this podcast is brought to you by Ray-Ban.
Yep.
I don't know.
It'll be interesting, and I want you to, if you can, keep an eye out for these on Facebook, and I'm talking to Nick, but really anybody that's listening to the show and happens to be in our Slack. I want to know what this feels like to you. Because I really just don't use Facebook, so I don't know what they're even like.
I don't use Facebook either, so
Bummer. All right.
I mean, I browse through every now and then, right, to see if anything major happened with some of my friends, milestones, whatever. But I'm not a daily user.
Yeah. Well, if anybody that listens to the podcast is and you see one of these, I'd love to hear about it from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do check it out. Let us know on Facebook or on
There
our
you
Slack.
go. Yeah.
I mean, we do check social media interactions, so there's that. I guess I am a user in that regard, but not like the feed.
Not my own, yeah.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
anyway.
All right. What do we got? 2 more stories? 1 more story?
I think we got, 2 more.
2 more.
All right. So a little flip in the script here. So startups across the world are transforming capabilities that were once regulated to specialty labs with large, expensive capital equipment and highly trained technicians. Well, today an entire human genome can be run on a desktop machine for less than $1,000. And beyond DNA sequencing, new companies are focusing on everything from flu to strokes and are moving the technology, revenue, and data from few centralized companies to doctors and patients that need it the most. Benefits of these technologies are numerous, and disaggregating testing from large centralized labs to clinics or the home will broadly lower cost, enhance patient outcomes, and provide better overall access to care. Significant investment is still required to develop test to a cost and performance that is acceptable to the healthcare system.
It's okay. We'll make it through.
And there are many sources of funding currently supporting these innovations. All right, Nick. So from a high level, what is this telling us?
Okay, so let me get into this. So this is actually just a sort of a meta-analysis by the folks over at TechCrunch. And they're kind of looking at how technology in healthcare is basically moving from these large, highly intensive machines to being able to get access and test mobile. And we've talked a lot about these sort of technologies on the show, and I just thought this was a nice kind of reminder that we're moving in a direction where it's decentralized from the hospital now. We're getting a lot more data about ourselves in our everyday lives just from the device that's in our pocket. These devices are tremendously powerful, and a lot of us take it for granted every day. I think it's great that we're sort of using them in such a way that allows us to maintain our health or get some sort of better awareness of what's going on with our bodies. And I know that you are probably super jazzed about this trend and movement because you talked several times on the show about how you're super into what goes into your body and how your body operates and what kind of data you can get about it. And I don't know, it's a meta-analysis I thought it'd be fun to talk about.
No, it's great. And I love that even from like TechCrunch's perspective that they're really talking about the fact that, okay, we're moving away from this centralized model and startups are doing it in such a rate that is really going to help to lower costs, not just to patients themselves, but also the providers that are giving you the care and create just kind of a different way of looking at the healthcare model. And like Nick kind of said, I nerd out a little bit about how my nutrition works with my body and all that kind of stuff. But I think the really interesting point that we brought up last week that was really from Nick's perspective that I like a lot is the idea that you're not having to do a whole lot of extra effort. If you want to, you can dig into these kind of things. You can look at the analytics from your Fitbit or kind of poke through your iPhone's health app and see what's going on. But ultimately, it's really a set it and forget it thing. And with technology that's advancing like this, or in this kind of innovative way through startups and also through different healthcare providers themselves, it's really just putting this data in doctors' hands and then also incorporating, machine learning and AI into how diagnosis goes through. So there's just a lot to go through.
Yeah, this is super exciting. It makes me think though that like I just wish it was a little bit further along. So like my Fitbit can tell when I am exercising, but it can't tell what exercises I'm doing. And, if I had a camera in the house, maybe it could more accurately analyze what type of workouts I was doing. Or, if I had a camera when I go to the gym or whatever, it would be able to monitor. We talked about this too, like monitoring your posture while you're doing exercises and getting that sort of coaching behavior. I don't know. I feel like it should be there and it's not yet. And at the same time, like I'm very happy with the way this trend is going. And I don't know, am I crazy here? Like, I just feel like there are still a couple opportunities for us to tie these things together. Because as human factors practitioners, as a human factors podcast, we're talking about how we can make things easier for people and how we can design for the human. And I think largely putting agency into the hands of people with their own health data and medical data, I think that's a good start. We're not as close as I would like it to be.
Yeah, so I've got two things. One that's definitely on target, but one that kind of goes off into the deep end.
Let's do on target first.
Yeah, so the big thing is, I agree with you. I think that I feel like a lot of times this stuff should be a lot further along than it is, but there's also a giant underestimation of how much it takes to really make these changes in an organization like healthcare.
Right.
And like going to the healthcare symposium this year, like people that are in the human factors field are still, like, for lack of a better metaphor, in the trenches and fighting the battles to really get into operating rooms and understand the interactions that are going on between nurses and patients and doctors and surgeons, and trying to fix what exists now. And what we're trying to do is now integrate technology into that system in a way that's going to make it much easier for the patient, but require a lot more kind of analysis on the doctor's end, but also trying to introduce it in a way that does not like introduce a bunch of fear for doctors, right? So you're not taking away their job or their ability to make the calls. So I think I think that's why we see such a gap. And also too, like, a lot of these startups that start, like, they can only get so far without needing one of these bigger companies to help them or buy them out so they can continue developing a technology.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with the inertia of an organization being hard to maneuver. And hopefully that changes. Hopefully this whole disruption of the way that we get data and sort of utilize the data on a mobile platform rather than having it centralized in a medical facility, I think hopefully that will transform the way that industry thinks about healthcare and providing users feedback and prescriptions and everything else health related. You said you had 2 points. Was that that was the on target one?
Yeah, that was the more on target one.
What's the off target one?
So here's the off target version of that. This is gonna, I promise this comes full circle for it. But think about something, and Nick, you and I've talked a little bit about this on the show. But think about the ketogenic diet, right?
Sure.
And this is just quick overview. This is basically replacing carbohydrate intake with fat to use as a fuel source. That over years and years of time, decades of time, maybe even hundreds of years, has been gone up and down in the scientific community. And there's been a lot of fighting about it in the past, 5 years, when it's come back into the zeitgeist and a lot more people are using it.
Right.
That doctors don't think there's efficacy to it. And then there's a lot of research that comes out about, okay, this is helpful for cancer, this is helpful for weight loss.
Sure.
And I think that you experience that same type of, not disregard, but almost angst against something brand new. Because you've been doing something one way for so long. And I think for doctors, a lot of this stuff has to be a little bit scary, right?
These kids and their mobile devices.
Yeah. What is this mobile device going to tell me that I don't know or I didn't learn in medical school? Well, and I think oftentimes it'll be pitched the wrong way as well.
Sure.
So it's not, this is to help augment you doing your job the best that you can. You're already doing an excellent job, but this is just that extra 1%.
Right. You bring up a great point. I mean, we're not trying to take jobs away. We're trying to augment them and put you more in a supervisory role of this data rather than sort of an analysis role. And, for better or for worse, I don't want to say like the industry is very get off my lawn, but it can be misconstrued that you're right. There is a sort of attitude towards new technologies that, well, we know this works. Why would we switch to that when it's a risk? So, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you see different trends about it, but also too, I think it's going to eventually get there. Because like I said, I think last week when we did this, I mean, I've already gotten, I know this seems peripherally related, but I think it's a big leap. I've already gotten like a card from my healthcare provider saying like, hey, you can call this doctor at any time and you have 24-hour access to them.
That's great.
Via like video phone.
Just by the way, Blake, you just need a doctor that believes in the ketogenic diet, because mine is totally on board with it and she's like, fine.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's for sure. I mean, if they believe in it, yes, but if they don't,
okay,
they're for some. I don't know. That's a whole other podcast.
You need a doctor that's on your side, but also is willing to tell you the hard truths.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Doctor, mechanic, and electrician? No, what is the third one? Lawyer. That's it.
Yeah.
Doctor, mechanic, lawyer. Those are the three that you need to trust.
All
All right, you learned it here first on Human Factors. Okay,
There you go. Life advice from Human Factors Cast.
we got one more story, and speaking about all this data on people.
Yeah, so let's pull it all together with some more data on everybody. So it looks like Amazon and Walmart, which have been long battling it out in the retail arena, both want to keep a very close eye on their workers. So earlier this year, Amazon patented smart wristbands that it uses to make sure a warehouse worker's hands are always moving. Now its rival has patented an audio surveillance system, which can be used to listen to conversations between employees and customers at checkout. Now, before you freak out and think that Walmart has been listening to all the juicy gossip you've been dropping out of the checkup lines, know that it's still just a patent. And of course, the company has refused to confirm or deny whether it's planning to actually use the technology to spy on its workers. The audio surveillance system Walmart designed is composed of several sensors that can collect all kinds of audio data, including beeps and rustling of papers. Any data it gathers can be used to assess an employee's performance. For instance, the sounds items make when it's being placed inside of a bag can tell the company how different someone is at bagging purchases. Customers' voices can also indicate how long a line is and how quickly a cashier can get them through it. Oh, man. Nick, this is intense. This has a lot of implications across multiple different businesses.
Wow, Blake, it's like you read my lips. This is literally that was exactly my line. There's a lot of implications for this. Wow. The human performance metrics are the things that I'm most interested in as a human factors practitioner. The security and privacy are also very important issues. And I think it's important to bring this up, but also bring up the conversation of you don't want to infringe on your employees' rights as humans, right? I think there are, if you anonymize the data, I think that's the safest bet. But how can you when, like, these are listening for sounds. So that's the good point. I mean, you already have cameras looking at you. This is just a sound device. So employees are already being monitored. This is just one more way to look at it. The thing that is kind of interesting to me is the fact that they're looking at all these performance metrics. And if they were smart, they wouldn't use this to punish their employees, but rather use it as a learning experience and sort through the data and say, look, these types of employees are bagging faster. Why is that? And how can we teach that method to other cashiers that may be struggling in this? What kind of training can we make that will help efficiency across all of our employees rather than, hey, John is not doing a good job on cashier, let's can him. That's the fear, right? Because Walmart has not have the most positive reputation for treating its employees well.
Sure, yeah, that is very true, and I think everybody is aware of that.
And it's often seen as like a starter job. No offense to any human factors practitioners that are working at Walmart or working with Walmart. I'm just saying that is the general public's perception of Walmart, and
hence why this is still a patent.
This is a patent, and this brings up a lot of good questions.
Yeah, I don't even know how to really tackle this one because I've got so many ideas just kind of flowing through my head about it. I do like that they could potentially use this for good, like you've mentioned, right? So they're gathering all these kind of human performance metrics. And now they're using audio to do it, which means they had to come up with some really sophisticated audio surveillance equipment, and they have to know what the output's going to look like and how to interpret it to mean anything that's going to be useful for the company.
Right.
And that can, lead into, okay, we've got, during this time of the day, we've got like people that aren't good at bagging, or we have longer lines. How can we mitigate that? I think there's something else going on here, and I want you to tell me that I'm wrong, because I think I might be. I think I might be a little off base here. But I'm thinking that this is another way to try and monitor what's going on in their store from an employee perspective, to start having hard numbers and ways of justifying human performance versus automated performance.
Oh, okay, I can see that.
And so
you're not off base at all.
To help them try and figure out, like, okay, based off of all these things we're collecting at the store, because I'm assuming they're doing video, they're looking at the number crunchy type data that they have from like cashiers and all that stuff, and then adding in like another component of sound. What based off of what we're seeing, what's the slowest things that we can replace?
Right.
What processes would really like help from automation? And I'm not saying removing an employee,
Right.
but what can we do?
What can we automate?
Yeah, whether it's the checkout process entirely, or if it's the bagging process, maybe just people are not as good as automation as at bagging things.
Right. That's a good point. Question for you, Blake, and I know this is a little off the rails, but do you typically go through a cashier, or do you do self-checkout?
I do self-checkout
All the time?
all the time,
Every single time?
every single time. Well, okay,
Unless you have like a lot of stuff.
yeah, unless I've got too much stuff that I don't feel like bagging, or
Yeah. That's me too. Even when I go, I like bagging my own stuff because I cache it. I do like, here's the fridge, here's the freezer, here's the pantry, here's the bathroom, here's, so I cache it.
so you kind of know where it all goes when you get home.
Exactly.
That
So I
makes
can
sense.
just throw a bag here, throw a bag there, So that's me. And I'm wondering if, so the self-checkout tangent, that's interesting to me because they'll most definitely capture data on that, and that will be anonymized. That'll be completely anonymized. It'll be interesting to see if cashiers do a better or worse job than self-checkout, because I'm like super efficient when I do self-checkout because I know I can do it faster. Like, no slight to cashiers. I was one once, but like I can do it faster.
Yeah, and that's an interesting use case too, because there's a supervisory role when it comes to self-checkout. There's
Right.
that one person that has to like come around and fix the machine if it breaks.
Yeah.
And that might be a good way to test how that's going, how they're interacting with customers, and what the customer is saying. Are they getting frustrated with the machine?
Oh, dude, I get so mad when the person who's in the supervisory role doesn't I was sitting there. Okay, way off the rails. I know we're like almost out of time, but way off the rails. I was sitting there at self-checkout, and we sat around for like 3 minutes while these 3 Walmart employees, I'm not afraid to call them out, there were 3 Walmart employees sitting there chatting while I had a thing, and I was like, excuse me, does it take 3 of you to help one person? And like I felt like a real jerk about it. But at the same time, 3 employees to help one person when my thing is like clearly like, I don't know.
Yeah,
It was just
interesting.
all right. So this is not, chastise Walmart cast, but this does have some implications. So anyway, you know what time it is?
What time is it?
Well, it is, hang on, let me find it. This one.
It came from.
That's right. It came from Reddit. Whoa, what's going on? All right, so
It came from Star Wars.
It came from the soundboards messing up. All right, that's okay. We had some soundboard problems earlier tonight. That's okay. It came from Reddit. This is part of the show where we search all over Reddit to bring you topics that the community's talking about. Any subreddit's fair game as long as it encourages discussion among the community. I wanted to do something a little bit different tonight. So this one is from Wolfie Fenrir from the user experience subreddit, and it's simply titled "Just a Collection of UX Tools." Blake, you and I had a chance to pour through this a little earlier, and I want to bring up one point with this. If you go to this, the auto mod basically flagged this as spam, and it's a tremendously valuable resource. There's not a whole lot of comments on it, but that's our job, is to go through these Reddit posts and bring you content that's worthy of your attention. So this is the user research toolbox, and there's a lot of valuable tools on here with links to the tools themselves, and what category they are, like AV recording devices, analytics, real-time tracking, card sorting, diary study, managing assets, and there's a ton of different tools for each of these. This is a really cool resource. The link to this is in the show notes. We also posted it in our Slack. So definitely go check this out. Are there any of these that kind of stand out to you, Blake? There's the ones that we talked about time and time again on the show, but
what I do want to call it, in case somebody is like new to the podcast or new to like prototyping and UX, there is a long list of both free and paid for tools on here that are at the very bottom for the wireframing, prototyping, and mockups category. And it's got a really comprehensive list. So if anybody's kind of like looking for something new to try or looking what's hot right now, it's worth checking out at the bottom for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I just wanted to bring this up because it's a question that we get a lot as human factor practitioners. What tools do you use? And not all of them, but a good chunk of them that we use. Oh my God, come on! A good chunk of what we use is available on on this. This toolbox.
And another comment I wanted to make is a lot of times you only see, when it comes to tools, you see only like mock-up related or animation style tools when you think of like UX, but this has actually got a lot of stuff that's related to just the research realm. I mean, from everything from doing how do you just do basic surveys with things like SurveyMonkey to doing remote research itself, so UserZoom and those kind of companies. But it also kind of gives you a bunch of different tools that you can use to put together your like panel discussions or interviews and that kind of stuff. So it's got a lot of really amazing content integrated in here.
Yeah, absolutely agree. That's going to be it for today, though. We got to get out of here. We are at 59. Wow, we got a lot of stuff going on. I can't even talk. It's done. We're done. We're done with Human Factors Cast today. It's okay though, because it doesn't have to start. It doesn't have to. Wow, this is the worst outro ever. I'm sorry, guys. If you're a Patreon supporter, stay tuned for the after show. For the rest of you, you can join our discussion in our Slack or follow us all over social media. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter at HFactors Podcast. Be sure to drop us a comment on our SoundCloud or send us an email at humanfactorscast@gmail.com. If you're feeling saucy, you can leave us a voicemail at 901-646-1432. That's 901-646-1HFC. Be sure to like, subscribe, review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, or Google Podcasts now, I guess, or whatever your favorite podcast directory is. If you want to join the after show party, like I said, you can join us and support us on our Patreon at patreon.com/humanfactorscast. And of course, you can always reach us at our home on the web at humanfactorscast.com. Mr. Blake Arnsdorff, where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk about how poorly my soundboard is acting up right now?
If you guys want to talk about Star Wars sound clips, you can always find me at Don't Panic UX across Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Oh, excellent. As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me across social media at Nick_Roome. And soon, YouTube. Thanks again for tuning in to Human Factors Cast. And remember, till next time, it depends!